Previously on For the Worthy Master Mode. Time for revenge. Hey there, my name is Soundtrack and welcome back to another episode of my Terraria For the Worthy Master Mode playthrough series. Last episode we unsuccessfully beat our head against the Eater of Worlds and then successfully beat our head against the head of Skeletron. And after venturing into the dungeon a bit, we're rewarded with a pair of Water Bolt spells. Will we experience sweet revenge against the Eater in this episode and make further progress beyond that? Let's find out. I'm not gonna lie, as soon as I finished posting the last episode, I was thirsty for revenge against that Eater of Worlds and went ahead and 2 days later fired up the game to try out a new strategy. Given the way Water Bolt bounces around and pierces up to 10 enemies, I had a good feeling that a fairly small room would make the Eater fight a piece of cake. And you might have already seen the end result in my 1-minute guide that I already posted on the channel, but if not, here's the details of how it went down. First off, I created a bunch of sticky bombs. Even though I have a Deathbringer pickaxe that can mine Ebonstone, it's pretty slow at it and I need to clear out a decent amount of space for the fight, so sticky bombs it is. I then headed down to the Goblin Tinkerer for some reforging and nabbed a decent celestial upgrade for my Water Bolt and got godly on my Falcon Blade. I didn't want to spend a ton of money on my Bone Glove and contented myself with a 3% damage boosting Angry mod, but was running pretty short on funds and decided to quit reforging at that point. I then grabbed a bunch of Vile Powder and Rotten Chunks, stocked up on potions, and then headed out to the Corruption. I picked a spot with two side-by-side vertical chasms where I had placed a cross path before, and decided to scoop up my honey. I then played Spider Bomberman by hanging from the ceiling and tossing sticky bombs down below me. Less than a minute later, I've blasted this column of Ebonstone down to where I want it, and then smooth out the bottom with my pickaxe. Ebonstone then makes a nice flat 4, and then I start working on smoothing out the walls and adding a ceiling. I want nice flat surfaces to help my water bolts bounce around efficiently. Platform goes across the top and the middle, campfire and honey bath get placed, and then I warp home since I forgot my spiky balls. Quick trip to the Goblin for more, then back to the Corruption. A pit stop at a demon altar grants me 2 boss summoning worm food, and then I head to the fight room, pop my buffs, and start tossing my spiky balls. I forgot to place my star in a bottle, so I grab one from my piggy bank and then start filling the room with water bolts, eat the worm food, and start the fight. No fast forward this time, and right away the Eater dashes across the lower section of the room, but then curves around underneath and then doubles back through the same area. And based on the amount of damage numbers filling the screen, I find myself grinning like a kid at Christmas. Look at all those numbers! And soon enough, the boss is almost half dead, and yep, I start hearing the splat sounds of segments getting destroyed. There's several separate worms coming at me now, and so I start doing my best to avoid the heads as they do more damage than the body, but man, the boss is getting beat up fast. I pop a health potion at one point, but there are also a lot of hearts dropping from defeated segments. Soon the number of worms has greatly decreased, making it much easier to avoid the remaining worms while gathering up hearts. I keep spamming my water bolt, pausing now and then for my mana to refill, and eventually the last one does a nice U-turn right up above me, and I've got my loot bag, relic, and even the trophy. The whole fight took about 1 minute, and man oh man was that satisfying. I quickly gather up all the loot and then rush back to base to place my new Nah, who am I kidding? I start throwing spiky balls to fight it again, that was fun. Balls go down, I pre-fill the room with water bolts, and then summon the boss. Looks like his spawn point is just below me this time, but it's taking a while for all the segments to get out of the gate, making it easier for me to knock off the head whenever it comes into the room. I even toss in some shield charges for extra style points. At one point he lines up straight with me on the middle platform and water bolts go down his throat and easily kill a half dozen segments before his momentum pushes through me. I have to take a healing potion, and finally the tail segment emerges with the boss only having about a third of its life left. More body segments die, and eventually I've got at most 4 worms roaming around, but they continue to drop quickly and then the fight is over. This round took a little over a minute because it took so long for the body to fully emerge, but was again a lot of fun. And it looks like I gained just shy of 40 gold too. I might have to come back to farm this more later. Since I've got 2 trophies and relics, I go ahead and place 1 of each here in the chamber. I've got plenty of rotten chunks for another go, but not enough vile powder, so I pause for a selfie at the relic, open the loot bags and check out the loot, and then warp home. Oh hey, I got the mini eater vanity pet, lols. This thing is kinda cute, but I generally hate using pets like this as I always end up thinking it's a monster and try to attack it. Over at the fighting arena, I place the relic, and now I'm up to 4. Now that the Eater of Worlds and Skeletron are gone, there's basically nowhere in the world I can't go, except obviously the hard mode Jungle Temple. I've got a bunch of things I want to accomplish through the rest of the episode though, including exploring more of the jungle and more of the dungeon. I'll also be doing lots of fishing quests that I probably won't show much of, looking for additional accessories, and further bolstering my potion stockpile. Just after catching a fishing quest, I notice a meteor falling through the sky and then get a message that it has landed. The next morning I start at the ocean pylon and then trek across the world to find the meteor, but after finishing the left side of the world, get interrupted by a slime rain. I mostly use my falcon blade and water bolt against the slimes and then use the boomstick to take down the king pretty easily. Then it's back to meteor hunting and I eventually find it on the edge of the corruption to the right of my snow biome. I start mining a little bit, but then remember that I had previously crafted an obsidian skull that allows you to stand on the blocks. So quick warp to base, grab the skull, and head back to the site. Wearing the skull changes my face, that's fun. Wearing the skull makes mining the meteor super easy, and about 2 minutes later the meteor heads have stopped spawning. I'm not sure if I'm going to bother making the meteor armor, as I've never been a big fan of the space gun. Back at base I notice it must be a full moon as my deathweed is in bloom with a thematic skull cloud floating below me. I then head to the zoologist to see what pets I can purchase and get cat and dog licenses. These pets count as villagers for getting an area to decrease enemy spawn rates, which triggers once there are 3 in an area. I want to put them at the ocean and snow pylons for exactly that purpose. A fishing quest the next day rewards me with the weather radio. Now I have 2 of the 3 items from the angler that are needed for the cell phone. Then it's off to the dungeon to do a little more exploring down there, using a danger sense potion to highlight the traps and break away bricks. I hadn't gotten very far though when an Angry Bones drops on my head from above for the first death of the session, which I'm pretty sure is death number 38. So I head right back in, pick up my headstone, and then find the tavern keep passed out on the floor, bonus! I really want to get alchemy and summoners tables, as well as more golden chests opened, but man are there a lot of spikes down here, which on top of the frequent monster spawns makes it pretty slow going. I eventually get a golden key from a slime and find an alchemy table, and then apparently fail to notice an almost dead and tied up mechanic. The golden chest gives me an aqua scepter, and then I finally notice the mechanic and set her free, only for her to die moments later from the spinning spike ball trap. Whoops. There's no water candles in the area, but man are there a ton of skeletons rushing in below me. Did they up the spawn rate in the dungeon in For the Worthy? I get cursed by a cursed skull though, and then get decapitated for death number 39. But hey, at least I got the mechanic, an alchemy table, and a shadow key. The mechanic gets moved in next to her one true love, the Goblin Tinkerer, and I decide to set my sights on doing some Underworld exploration. I need to get some Fire Blossom to make obsidian potions, which will allow me to swim in the lava to mine Hellstone. But to get the Fire Blossom, I'll need to run around in the Underworld in the late afternoon. Using a water walking potion will allow me to run safely on the lava, so I figure out what I need for that, and using my only shark fin, make the needed potion. I really wish sharks were less rare, as the fin is also needed for useful hunter potions. But since it's just after midnight and I'll have to wait for the fire blossoms to be in bloom, I decide to run to the jungle to see what the For the Worthy Queen Bee is like. I'm being careful not to use projectiles in the hive so I don't accidentally break the larva early, but end up getting eviscerated by a hornet for death number 40. I rush right back to the jungle, head back to the hive, and this time head in from the bottom to clear out the mobs inside, carefully avoiding the larva. I'm not expecting to do well here, and mostly just want to see if she seems different than regular Master Mode, so after setting up some platforms and closing off the entrances, I go ahead and start spamming my water bolts until one happens to hit the larva, summoning the queen. And as expected, yeah, she's definitely moving a lot faster than I remember from regular Master Mode. Little bees seem to have more health and or defense, and the charges are really fast. Before long, I've been dissected for death number 41. I'll come back to her another day with a different approach, but for now, decide it's time to venture to the Underworld to get my Fire Blossom seeds for my herb garden. So with Water Walking Potion in my inventory, along with Spelunker and Mining Potion, I warp to the cave village and start exploring my way down. Along the way, I find a big patch of emeralds and topaz. I might do the stained glass window trick with these, and spot another cabin that has nothing useful. I get to the Underworld only to realize that I forgot to equip my obsidian skull, but before I can put it on, get overrun by a voodoo demon and hellbats. Death number 42. Obsidian skull gets equipped, I rush back down. Along the way, the party girl arrives, and then I'm back to the Underworld, open my first shadow chest, getting a flame lash. Nice! This is a target-seeking magic weapon that is great for taking out small targets like bats, and can even shoot around corners and be controlled on your cursor. A little lower in that building, I grab myself a Hellforge and then rush over to the side to grab some blooming fire blossoms. Seeds obtained. A little ways over, I find a shadow chest and get a flower of fire, but the building I'm in gets surrounded by voodoo demons. It looks like all the demons have voodoo dolls in For the Worthy, and I decide I don't want to risk accidentally summoning the wall of flesh and warp back to base. And besides, I was almost dead anyways. Fire blossom seeds get planted, flame lash gets reforged to mythical on the second try, and flower fire also gets reforged to mythical on the second try, which is a pretty good weapon to use in the dungeon. I then visit the tavern keep that I've moved in next to his buddy, the demolitionist, and go ahead and buy an Eternia crystal stand, a couple of crystals, and a flame burst rod, which can also be used outside of the Old One's Army event as a sentry weapon. I want to go ahead and try that event, so I head to the right of my NPC motel and begin widening the area a bit. I then remove the bunker defenses from the motel, measure out some distances, and then decide I want more space, so I demolish the top level. Yeah, it's ugly for now, but I'll fix it later, maybe. Crystal stand gets placed, I pop a few buff potions and start the event. Looks like the portal on the right side is spawned up the hill a bit, so I'll have to get rid of the slope to avoid that. First wave goes down pretty easily, but I didn't bring any mana regen potions, so I expect that will be a problem before too long. Waterbolt generally rips this event to shreds in pre-hard mode. Wave 3 completes successfully, but they were getting pretty close to the crystal, and by the time wave 4 is done, the crystal is already below half health. However, there were still too many mobs from that wave, and they finish off the crystal. A few quick changes to the fighting arena, a reposition of the crystal stand, and a quick trip to my alchemy lab to get some different potions, and then I head back to the arena to try again. I test out getting the water bolt to bounce back and forth, and then start the event. With all these water bolts bouncing around, piercing up to 10 enemies, they don't stand a chance. Wave 1 goes down, Wave 2 goes down, Wave 3 goes down, Wave 4 goes down, and then I get to Wave 5. This one does surprise me a bit, as the Dark Mage or something else shoots something that takes me below half health, and then I fail to dodge a second shot that almost kills me. I almost get overrun by wyverns, but the event completes successfully, and I don't even die. Early the next morning, I check in with the angler to see what the day's quest is, but I'm also notified that a goblin army is approaching from the east, so I hurry home. But overconfident from the Old One's Army battle, I get careless and end up getting mangled by a goblin warrior for death number 43. I rush over to the nurse to heal up and then head to the fighting arena to keep my NPCs safe. This time I play it safe, letting one side go into the volcano while I take out the other side, heading up to the platforms as needed to deal with the sorcerers. I'm really having a lot of fun with these magic weapons. What do you think? Should I go mage class for the rest of the playthrough? Before long, the goblins are routed and I decide to call it a day for the episode. Overall, I was very pleased with my progress. The Eater of Worlds was soundly defeated twice. I got a lot of really great upgrades from the Underworld and dungeon, added like 3 more NPCs, and only increased my death tally by 6. Next episode, we'll be going after the Queen Bee, mining Hellstone, and otherwise work towards maxing out our pre-hard mode gear and start preparing for the Wall of Flesh in hard mode. If you liked the video, please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!